Imagine you are a soldier. The year is 1918, and you are fighting in the trenches of the First World War. It is hell on earth, and you just want to get out and get home. That is the premise of the very, very famous game by now, Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 is a massive, massive game, and is probably one of the most interesting and well-made shooter games in at least the last decade. It's just masterfully created, and it blends everything so well. And I'll go into the mechanics of why it's so good later, but just all you need to know right now is that it's good. It's a really, really good game. It's really, really fun. Every time I play it, I love it. It's just one of the most iconic shooter games, even though it came out only in 2016 actually, which is now quite a long time ago. It still has its servers up, still after all these years, and they're still all full. It's crazy. It has still a massive player base. It is a huge game with loving, adoring fans, and it makes the game wonderful. But Battlefield 1 was not always like this. When it first released, it actually saw incredible fame because it was very new. No one had really done a shooter game on the First World War like Battlefield 1 had. And by the way, this is my Remembrance Day special, I'd say. I did not get the game when it first came out in 2016, so I don't exactly know what happened back in the day. I got it in 2018, so 2 years after it came out. But I know it came out to critical fame, critical acclaim, I think, and everyone loved it. It was just an amazing game. There weren't many issues that I could think about or try and remember about. I couldn't find any, but I do know that it actually stole the spotlight away from other games like Titanfall 2 that were releasing around the same time, which is a pity because that's also a very, very good game. So now let's go into the mechanics. Why is Battlefield 1 so good? How did they develop the game to make it so good? And there's a simple answer to that and a more in-depth one. So obviously the simple answer is they just crafted a loving game. They did not fill it with microtransactions or anything of the sort that you might see in a modern game. Even though it was EA Blizzard making this game, it was still masterfully crafted, and I think is one of their last very, very good and very, very successful games that both studios made in collaboration with one another. So one mechanic that I know that makes the game very good is just how well all the weapons are balanced. Now, I know some weapons are better than the other, like that big machine gun. I can't exactly think of the name now, and that's definitely that's overused. And obviously some other bits were added in for fun, like the submachine guns did not actually exist in the majority of the First World War and were only introduced, like I think it's the MP-18 was only introduced in 1918 by the Germans, yet you can still use it as the base weapon for the assault class. But that's introduced for fun because it's not much fun if everyone's just running around with a bolt-action rifle. So I actually have to really applaud EA for making the decision to prioritize fun over historical accuracy in some cases, but in others still keeping very much true to their historical accuracy vibe. Like their maps. The maps are extremely accurate and extremely fun. The maps are incredibly well designed. Even the newer ones from the DLCs are incredibly well designed, extremely fun to play on, and they're just an overall extremely fun experience. Another thing that I think made Battlefield 1 so successful, and still so successful, is that it's not pay to win at all. There is literally I don't think any way you can pay to get something that's better than somebody else. I think it's literally only cosmetics that you can open through crates, which I know, yeah, it's a bit of gambling, but I mean, considering it doesn't actually do much bad, and I don't think I've ever even touched a crate, or many other players have, it's just not a big deal, and I think that's why people still love coming back to the game. Because when a new game releases like 2042 or something like that, and it flops massively, it's because they compare it to something like Battlefield 1, which is by far, I'm gonna say it, the finest game of the Battlefield series. Now, the last mechanic we'll be covering is how accessible the game is. You could come back to the game after not playing it for 5 years, and you'd still find it incredibly fun. It's a type of game where there's not one or two players who get like the majority of the kills. It's usually spread out, and if you check like the scoreboards in a Battlefield 1 match, usually everyone has a similar amount of kills to deaths, and it's not just concentrated in one or two people like it is in the majority of video games. And I know how it is just concentrated in one or two people like it is in the majority of video games. And I know how it is in Battlefield 5. Now speaking about Battlefield 5, let's compare it to that. The game that came afterwards. Battlefield 5, which I also love, I adore it. It was actually like one of my favorite shooters for a very, very long time, and it's about World War II. I was introduced. So it's not nearly as popular as Battlefield 1 is today, and there are a couple reasons why I think that is. So Battlefield 5 did not stick nearly as true to historical accuracy as Battlefield 1 did. You could play as women, you could play as disabled people, you could play as, that didn't matter. You could play on maps with the wrong type of equipment. I'm just going to quickly add in something here. An example of something that was inaccurate in Battlefield 5 is that they literally had a woman and her daughter destroy the German heavy water plant, when in reality it was like a team of British commandos who were doing it instead. But oh lord, they weren't happy about that. And most importantly, what I think they messed up the most on is they didn't have the bloody Russians. That's the majority of the war, guys. Majority of the war, and they focused on very little campaigns. It didn't get many updates. I think the last update it got was in 2020. Which focused on the Pacific War, which was amazing. I really liked that. But still, it didn't have nearly the variety that Battlefield 1 had. And I don't know why that is. Maybe EA didn't concentrate as much on Battlefield 5 as they did on Battlefield 1, because it came out 2 years after Battlefield 1. But it just was not as successful as Battlefield 1 because of that reason. It was a lot more unbalanced too. Like, you would always have that hacker in a plane in Battlefield 5 who just kills everyone, and he has like 100 kills and 1 death, and that's how you know he's a hacker, right? They can't be real. So that's why I think Battlefield 1 at least is better than Battlefield 5. But now let's compare it to a different shooter altogether. How about Call of Duty Modern Warfare? Now Call of Duty Modern Warfare is fast paced, I'm gonna say not too large action battles, and Call of Duties, they die really quickly, like 6 months after CODs are released. Unless it's like a really solid game, they usually die. Like, who's playing Cold War by now? Come on. Released ages ago. Well, it didn't release ages ago. Released quite recently. Released for like $100 or something at the time. AUD, by the way. It's got no players. Even though I'm pretty sure it's still a pretty good game. It just does not have the mechanics and the community of Battlefield 1. And this is my last category. Battlefield 1's community. Battlefield 1's community has been able to keep this game alive for so long. So long. I myself am part of this community. I mean, I can't help but telling you all to go get the game right now and play it. Even though it's, what? It's about 7 years old now. It's still a really, really good game. And you can get it for a very good price too, I think, if you look hard enough. So that's why I think it's just a really, really good choice to buy. And that's what the community has been echoing. And that's why it's still so played. Because it's the type of game where you can just pick up and play again after not playing it for ages. And it's fun. And yeah, if you're just tired and you don't feel like playing any other games, just get yourself into a round of Battlefield 1. It's fine, it's fun, and literally every person who I've known to have bought the game loves it. So, in conclusion, I have to say, the reason why Battlefield 1 is such a popular game is due to a combination between its mechanics, the community, and how well it compares to other games. If you enjoyed this video, please would you like and subscribe? It really helps the channel. Just feel free to comment down what you think about this review. So thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.